The silence was the first sign. My perfect night had ended with the man I loved stealing not just my future, but a secret that would shatter everything I thought I knew. The first thing I registered was the silence. Not the comfortable, sleepy silence of a Sunday morning, but a deliberate, careful silence. The kind of quiet that's trying not to be heard. I felt a cool draft where Liam's body should have been, the warmth he left behind already fading from the sheets. My eyes were still closed, but every other sense was on high alert. I heard the faint rustle of fabric, the soft metallic click of a zipper being pulled slowly, cautiously. My heart started a frantic, muffled drumbeat against my ribs. We'd had the perfect night. He'd made my favorite pasta. We'd slow danced in the living room to an old vinyl record, and he'd kissed the top of my head and whispered, "You're my forever. You know that." Before we fell asleep, tangled in each other's arms, there had been no fight, no tension, nothing to signal that our world was about to be ripped apart at the seams. Through my eyelashes, I watched him. He was moving like a ghost in the pre-dawn gloom, his back to me. He was fully dressed in jeans and a dark hoodie I'd bought him for his birthday. His duffel bag, the one we used for weekend trips to the coast, was open on the floor. He was folding his favorite shirts with a precision that felt cold, methodical. He wasn't just grabbing things, he was choosing, selecting the pieces of his life he wanted to take with him. 1,000 questions screamed in my head, but my throat was sealed shut with a thick, paralyzing fear. If I spoke, if I said his name, this fragile, terrifying moment would shatter, and I wasn't ready for what would come after. So I lay there, feigning sleep, my body rigid, tracking his every move. He went into the bathroom. I heard the soft click of the medicine cabinet, the scrape of his toothbrush being pulled from the holder we shared. He was even taking his toothbrush. The finality of that simple act hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a business trip he forgot to mention. This was an ending. He came back into the bedroom and stood for a moment by the door. I could feel his eyes on me, and I forced my breathing to remain even, a slow rise and fall that felt like a lie. "Please," I begged him silently, "please turn around, get back in bed, and tell me this is a nightmare." But he didn't. He just stood there for a long, agonizing moment before turning away. I heard the soft jangle of keys being placed on the entryway table. Our keys, his key to our apartment. He was leaving it behind. The front door opened with an almost inaudible click, and then it shut, the deadbolt turning with a soft, definitive thud that echoed in the sudden, absolute emptiness of the room. For 10 minutes, I didn't move. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then a frantic energy took over. I threw back the covers and ran to the closet. His side was half empty. His best suit, gone. His running shoes, gone. The photo album his mom had made for him, the one he kept on his nightstand, was also gone. My mind was a whirlwind of denial and panic. What did I do? What did I say? I replayed our perfect night, our perfect week, our perfect life, searching for a crack, a flaw, a reason. I found nothing. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling so badly I could barely unlock it. I was about to call him, to demand an answer, when the screen lit up with a notification, a message from an unknown number. My stomach twisted into a painful knot. I knew with a chilling certainty that this was it. This was the explanation. I tapped the screen and a single image loaded. It was a photo taken from inside an airplane, the curved window showing a brilliant blue sky. And in the foreground, there was Liam. He was smiling, A genuine, happy smile I hadn't seen in weeks, I realized with a sudden, sickening clarity. And he was leaning over, his lips pressed against the lips of the woman sitting next to him. She had her hand on his cheek, her thumb caressing his jawline. She was beautiful, with long, dark hair cascading over her shoulder. My breath hitched. I zoomed in on her face, on the familiar curve of her smile and the tiny silver necklace she always wore. It wasn't just some random woman. It was my sister. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the hardwood floor. The screen didn't crack, and the picture remained, a tiny glowing monument to my own stupidity. Liam and Sarah, my Liam, my sister, kissing. Not a friendly peck, but a deep, intimate kiss that spoke of history, of secrets, of a life I had no idea they were living. The world tilted on its axis, the familiar patterns of the wood grain beneath my feet swirling into a nauseating vortex. I sank to my knees, a strangled sound escaping my throat, something between a gasp and a sob. My mind, a frantic librarian, started pulling files, memories, moments, desperately trying to recatalog everything I thought I knew. Sarah visiting last month, laughing a little too loudly at one of Liam's dumb jokes. Liam offering to drive Sarah to the airport after Christmas, insisting I stay home and rest. "It's on my way," he'd said, even though it was an hour in the opposite direction. All those late-night texts he'd get, the ones he'd dismiss with a wave of his hand. Just work, or just my brother. How many of them were from her? How many times had I sat between them on the couch, oblivious while they spoke a silent language right in front of me? A white-hot rage, pure and blistering, surged through the icy shock. I snatched the phone from the floor. I dialed Liam's number. It went straight to voicemail, his cheerful recorded voice a grotesque parody of the man I thought I knew. "Hey, you've reached Liam. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." I called again and again. Voicemail, voicemail, voicemail. He'd turned his phone off or blocked me already. I scrolled to Sarah's contact photo. A picture of the two of us at the beach last summer, arms slung around each other, grinning like idiots. My thumb hovered over the call button, trembling. She was my baby sister. I'd taught her how to ride a bike. I'd held her hand on her first day of school. I'd helped her pick out her prom dress. This couldn't be real. I pressed the button. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Each ring was a new turn of the knife in my gut. On the 4th ring, it clicked over to her voicemail. "Hey, it's Sarah. You know what to do." Her voice was bubbly, carefree, the voice of someone on vacation. I sent a single desperate text to both of them. 3 words. How could you? I watched the screen, praying for the little blue "delivered" sign to appear. Instead, there was only the green of a standard SMS. My messages weren't going through as iMessages anymore. They had blocked my number. The 2 most important people in my world had coordinated my execution, and then they had blocked me so they wouldn't have to hear me scream. I stumbled through the apartment, our apartment, now just a museum of lies. Every object was a betrayal. The coffee mug he'd used this morning, the half-finished book on my nightstand he'd recommended, the framed photo on the wall of the 3 of us on a hike, Liam in the middle with an arm around each of us. I ripped it from the wall, the glass shattering as it hit the floor, mirroring the fragmentation of my own life. I needed to get out. I needed to go somewhere safe. My parents. I had to call my parents. They would be as devastated as I was. They adored Liam. And Sarah, well, they would be furious with her. They would fix this. Or at least they would hold me while I fell apart. I grabbed my purse, ready to just drive, to just go to them. But my wallet felt thin. I checked. just a few dollars. No problem, I'd stop at the ATM, but as I grabbed my debit card, a cold dread washed over me. The joint account. We had put all our savings in a joint account just last month, a down payment for a house, our future. With shaking hands, I opened my banking app. I navigated to the checking account. Balance $14.30. My blood ran cold. I clicked on the savings account. The big one. The one with 5 years of my hard work and his promises in it. Balance. $0. A single transaction from yesterday evening while we were slow dancing in the living room. A wire transfer for the entire amount to an account I didn't recognize. He hadn't just left me. He had hollowed me out, stolen our future from under my feet, while whispering about forever in my ear. Tears streamed down my face as I dialed my mom's number. She picked up on the second ring. "Honey, is everything okay?" Her voice was hesitant, cautious. I couldn't speak, only sob, a raw, guttural sound of absolute brokenness. "Mom," I choked out, the words tearing at my throat. "Mom, Liam's gone. He left. He's with Sarah. He took all our money." I waited for the explosion of anger, for her to tell me she was on her way. Instead, there was a long, heavy silence, filled only by the sound of her sigh. A sigh of resignation, not surprise. And then she said the words that made the floor disappear from beneath me completely. "Honey, Sarah called us last night. We need you to just take a breath and listen. There's something you don't understand about Liam." My world, already shattered, atomized. What? The word was a faint puff of air. What don't I understand? The sob that had been racking my body died in my throat, replaced by a cold, creeping horror. My own mother's voice, the one that had soothed scraped knees and teenage heartbreaks, sounded distant, strained, as if she were reading from a script. "Sweetheart, Liam is in some trouble," she began, her words carefully chosen. "Bad trouble. Men came to the house a few weeks ago looking for him. They were not nice people. He owes them a lot of money, more than you have in that savings account." I sank onto the wreckage of the picture frame on the floor, the shards of glass pressing into my jeans. "What are you talking about? What men? What money?" My mind was reeling, trying to make sense of this new, terrifying narrative. "Gambling debts, honey." My dad's voice cut in from another phone. He sounded tired, defeated. "He's been in deep for a while, and it finally caught up to him. These people threatened him. They threatened you." The silence in our apartment wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with the ghosts of conversations I'd never heard, the echoes of a life Liam had been living in the shadows, his late nights at the office, the mysterious withdrawals from our account that he'd explained away as bad investments he was fixing, his increasing paranoia, his insistence on locking the doors the second we got home. It all clicked into place with sickening precision. "So you knew?" I whispered. The betrayal now a three-headed hydra. Liam, Sarah, and my own parents. "You knew he was leaving? With her?" "Sarah called us last night in a panic," my mom explained, her voice cracking. "Liam showed up on her doorstep, terrified. He told her everything. He said they were watching the apartment, watching you. He said the only way to get them to leave you alone was for him to disappear completely and to make it look like he'd left you for someone else. A clean, brutal break. So they'd believe it was over, that you two were done." The photo, the kiss. It wasn't an act of passion. It was a performance. A piece of cruel, calculated stagecraft designed to sell a lie to protect me. And Sarah. Sarah hadn't run away with my boyfriend. She had run to him. She was helping him escape. The money. I trailed off. He said he'd pay you back every cent, honey, my dad said. He's going somewhere to get help, to start over. Sarah is just making sure he gets there safely. She's flying back tonight. She wanted to be the one to tell you, but she didn't want you to be alone when you found out. The rage that had been a roaring bonfire in my chest dwindled to embers. In its place was a profound, cavernous ache. He hadn't left me because he didn't love me. He'd left because he loved me too much to let his darkness swallow me whole. He'd ripped my heart out, yes, but he'd done it thinking it was a life-saving surgery. It was a twisted, misguided, and devastating act of love. That evening, the key turned in the lock. Sarah stood in the doorway, her face pale and her eyes red-rimmed. She looked smaller, impossibly fragile. She didn't say a word, just opened her arms, and I collapsed into them. We stood there in the middle of my ruined living room, holding each other up, two sisters caught in the wreckage of a man we both loved in different ways. She explained everything. The threats had become specific. They knew my name, my routine. Liam was convinced they would use me to get to him. His only plan was to burn his life to the ground and take her with him in the photo, hoping the flames would be big enough to keep the sharks at bay. She handed me a letter, his familiar handwriting scrawling across the page. It wasn't an apology, not really. It was a confession, a roadmap of his lies, his shame, his addiction. The last line read, "I told you that you were my forever. I just didn't realize my forever couldn't be with you. Please be safe. Please forget me." Forgetting him wasn't an option, but forgiving him, that felt like a distant shore I wasn't sure I could reach. The healing was slow, agonizing. Sarah helped me pack up his remaining things, boxing up 5 years of my life. My parents helped me find a new apartment, a place untouched by his ghost. Slowly, the gaping wound in my life began to scar over. About a year later, a plain brown envelope arrived at my parents' house, forwarded to me. Inside was a cashier's check for a quarter of the money he had taken and a single folded piece of paper. There were no words, just a small wallet-sized photo. It was Liam, standing in front of a modest-looking house, a sprawling mountain range behind him. He looked thinner, healthier. The haunted look in his eyes was gone. He wasn't smiling, but there was a quiet peace on his face I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't a plea for forgiveness or a request to come back. It was just a message. I'm okay. I'm trying. And for the first time since that terrible morning, I felt a flicker of something that wasn't pain. It was a quiet, bittersweet release. He had started his new life, and now finally so could I.